All right, so for this first problem, it says that we need to figure out which phrase represents the integer 12. So this 12, that's a positive 12. So we need to find a keyword that implies a positive thing. A withdrawal of $12 means that my money loses $12. That's a negative word. A profit of $12 means that we're gaining money. Profit means that we're getting money. That's a positive word. A loss of 12 yards is a negative word. 12 feet below sea level. Below is a keyword that's a negative number. So here the only positive integer that we have is C, 12. Question number 2, which of these is an integer? Remember, integers are our number line numbers. Our number line numbers. So if I take a look at a number line, sorry, it's a little shiny. We see we have negatives, we have positives, we have 0, but there's no decimals and there are no fractions. So we need to make sure that we're not choosing anything that has a decimal, but we have to check our fractions. So first off, let's get rid of any decimals we have. 5.2 and negative 8.4. Because those are non-zero numbers after the decimal, they are not integers. Our fractions get a little trickier. Some fractions can be simplified. So if we take a look at our calculator can help us decide if it's an integer or not. In my calculator, if I type negative 1 divided by 8 for negative 1/8, that's equal to negative 0.125. If I type negative 16 divided by 4, that's equal to negative 4. That negative 1/8, that is a decimal. That simplifies to a decimal, so that is not an integer. But number 4, do we see number 4 on a number line? We sure do. So number 4 is our integer. Letter D there. On question number 3, we're looking for the greatest integer. Greatest means we're looking for the biggest number. On the number line, the greatest numbers are on which side? The greater numbers are on the right side. The smaller numbers are on the left. So here my greatest integer would be R. Our next question was the one that we had the most students get correct. The opposite of each integer. The opposite of a negative 8 would be a positive 8. The opposite of a positive 3 would be a negative 3. The opposite of a negative 7 would be a positive 7. And this one got tricky. So first we have to look at this integer. This shows the opposite of negative 2. The opposite of negative 2 is a positive 2. So this simplifies to just a positive 2. And the opposite of a positive 2 would be a negative 2. That one was really tricky and confusing, so be careful on ones like that. On question number 5, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. If it helps you, rewrite it as a math sentence. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. That is true. That is true. Number 6, integers cannot be negative numbers. Remember, integers are our number line numbers. Those counting numbers, zeros, and negatives. Negative numbers are integers, so this one is false. They can be integers. Negative numbers can be integers. Number 7 got a little tricky. A fraction can be an integer. That would be true if you can simplify. Ooh, I just combine all these words together. If you can simplify it to an integer. Like before, we had the negative 16 over 4 that equaled negative 4. That's a fraction that could be an integer. It's false if you cannot simplify to an integer. So it just kind of depends on how you perceive this question. I can see where you would say it's true because you might be able to simplify it. I could see where you say it's false because if you can't simplify the integer if it's a fraction. So on that one, I believe based off of this question, we're implying that you couldn't simplify it. So I think the answer choice that they put on the test was false. But if you put true and you thought that, I can see why you would think that it is true. Because that is a true statement. You could simplify a fraction to get an integer. Next one, the opposite of a negative is always positive. True. Because with opposites, we're just going back and forth between the positive and the negative. So negative is always going to become positive. The absolute value of a number is 8. Which two numbers could this be? Again, turn that word sentence into a math sentence. So the absolute value of what number is 8? What numbers could I put in this blank for absolute value to get it equal to 8? Negative 8 and 8. There's no flipping to become absolute value, so B and D, those fractions are wrong. And then C, we're not doing any math. We're not adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So we should just be getting A and E, negative 8 and 8. This one was tricky for us. Based on the representations shown, which of the following is true? This is called a key. We always want to be careful when we read the key because sometimes they're going to be backwards. Sometimes they're going to be different. They might use different shapes. They might use different colors. But for this one, white represents a positive one. Black represents a negative one. So what number is represented by these 4 here? That's a positive 4 because white is positive. And then this side would be a negative 6. Is 4 less than negative 6? No. B. Here this side is negative 5. This side is negative 4. Is negative 5 less than negative 4? If we think about our number line, number 5 is to the left of negative 4. So negative 5 is less than negative 4. That one is true. Let's go check all of our answer choices just to be sure. Here we have a positive 5 is greater than a positive 6. That's not true. And here we have a negative 6 is equal to a positive 6. That's not true. So our answer choice here would be B. Now we need to put numbers in order from least to greatest. And again, using number lines can help us. So we have negative 11, negative 9, negative 5, 17. Is negative 11 smaller than negative 9? Yeah. Is negative 5 less than negative 17? Yeah. Is negative 9 less than negative 5? Yeah. So A is correct. On C, those numbers are all mixed up. We shouldn't be seeing positives in the middle of negatives. That's not correct. Over here, the digits, 5, 9, 11, and 17, those are in order, but you've got to be careful with the negatives. With the negatives, they really go in backwards order. And then here, this one is in order from greatest to least. So the right order, just the wrong direction. Number 12, which statement is not true? 8 is greater than negative 2. That's true. Negative 9 is less than negative 5. That's true. Use a number line to help you. Negative 15 is less than negative 9. That is true. -8 is not greater than -3. D is incorrect. Here's my -8. Here's my -3. -8 is to the left, so it is less than 3. Another question we did really well on. Which integer or what integer belongs in the blank? -7, because it's between -6 and -8. Opposite numbers have equal absolute values. Equal absolute values. All absolute values are going to be positive, but specific to opposites, they're going to be the same because they're the same distance from 0. And the last one, Jose likes to go snorkeling in the ocean. He dives 10 feet below sea level to look at the coral before coming back up to the surface for air. Describe 10 feet below sea level using an integer. Below is a keyword that it's going to be a negative number. So here we should be choosing -10. If you have any questions on any of this, please let your teachers know. Otherwise, good luck with your practice.